I think it's pretty obvious that I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the series Helluva Boss. I can admit there's a lot of great things about the show, but by that same term, I have issues with how it's going, and especially concerning... this guy. But color me surprised with the last episode, which, while related to the drama with Blitz and Stolas, wasn't actually the focus. If anything, it was an episode that was actually dedicated to Millie of all characters, even fleshing out her character and showing her backstory. Which, considering one of my most blatant criticisms of the show was her lack of development and characterization, it really made me enjoy the episode more. I am getting a little ahead of myself at the moment though, so I want to step back for a little bit and talk about what this video is about. To point out, this isn't a right or wrong part of my series. Rather, this is me showcasing how I feel some things are done well in two series with one common element, all the while showing that how they're done differently in a way that I find personally good. And as such, I want to talk about Helluva Boss's last episode and my current obsession, Kamen Rider Gavv, both of which have some fun ideas with the concept of friendship and what they do to deserve to at least be discussed in a quick video essay format. So sit back, relax, grab a snack, rev up your draw tablets, and put me on the background noise. Let's get to analyzing. Spoilers for Helluva Boss and Kamen Rider Gavv.
You haven't paid me in a month.
Uh-oh, looks like it sucked all the fun out of you.
One of my biggest criticisms of Helluva Boss is that it has an issue with its characterization of its four main leads. I've got no problem saying that with a straight face. And that's mostly because there was a massive amount of focus centered around the two male leads, Blitz and Moxie. Their relationship has been given a lot of credence and also exploring how the two actually met each other, which on that front is good. But unfortunately because of that and the shift of the relationship between Blitz and the Owl, that has eaten up a lot of the plot pie of this Helluva Boss time. And I've been clear I'm not the biggest fan of Stolitz. It's only been about 4 months since I discussed my issues with him as a character and how it's because of this focus of the relationship it has choked out quite a bit of development between the other characters in the show despite it giving credence to characters that aren't mainly part of the main cast. So when we get to Ghost... sorry ma. We actually get an episode that's focused on Blitz and Millie with a more of a focus on Millie. Blitz finally showing some typical emotions after being broken up with Stolas, and in his depressive state is causing the business to fail. He's being obsessed with a show about ghost hunting. So when a new client comes in with a story about how she was killed by a ghost, Blitz's current obsession makes him accept the case, with Millie joining in to help him work out his issues and run the course of depression. I think that's rather telling that it speaks to Millie. Despite the fact that she's relentless as an assassin and killer, she does care for her friends, and knows that Blitz is going through something and is trying to be supportive as a friend. To me, one of the best parts is Millie actually snapping at Blitz and pointing out that while she is his friend, she still is an employee of Blitz and they need to make money to survive.
You know, I always love to have fun with you, and I ain't said boo to you moping around like a sad sack for weeks. But we have bills to pay. So look, you can go be pathetic and play sex ghosts if that's what you need to do, but I gotta get this job done. He's already dead.
It actually felt real, like I was experiencing something I myself have to deal with since I am friends with a few of my editors on this channel, but at the same time, they are my employees and I do expect some level of professionalism from them. I do pay them after all. And it really helps that we finally get some groundwork for both Millie and Blitz, and their friendship which started with Blitz trying to recruit Millie for his new job. It's an establishment that really does show that Blitz acted like a bit of hope for Millie, and getting her to join and find a new life does showcase why she's grateful for her boss as his friend. But it also shows that in order to establish that friendship, it actually took a little more work to actually convince Millie to join up with IMP, especially in comparison to Moxie.
Want to keep working for peanuts? Or do you want to shake things up? So I got a plan to get us out of this dump, but I'm gonna need some help. You think you can give me a hand? I need to get out to my daughter. The babysitter will kill me if I don't get back soon. You like this? Let me tell you.
When it did stick with Millie, it solidified a friendship between her and Blitz. And it's because of that friendship that Millie was able to act as an emotional anchor for him. Because when you really consider what friends are supposed to do, they are supposed to be there when you're at your lowest. And while you shouldn't expect to accept all your BS, as demonstrated in this very episode, they're supposed to help you as much as they can. But it's a two-way street, and considering that Blitz did give Millie a new outlook on life, a new chance to work with others, and obviously introduce Millie to her future husband, it's easy to see why Millie would really care about Blitz as a friend because he gave her a lot. It's easy to see why she would put up his frantic emotional bullshit and his behavior throughout the episode. But obviously there's a limit, and I think friendship there is the right way to go about it. Just because you're friends with someone, that doesn't mean you have to accept all the bad about them, and sometimes a good slap to the head is a cold hard reality that's something that a friend should and would do, especially if it's to prevent destructive behavior. Helluva Boss does showcase that there is a need for a proper friend group for mental health reasons and support. And then there's the scene where we get all the dead Millies that are confronting Blitz. It's interesting to see how they're all referential to how Millie could have been killed in the first season. Bottle shards in the face, being partially digested, shot by cherub arrows, or beaten down from the Harvest Moon Festival. It reflects on the ways that he could have lost one of his only friends in the world, and even showing that Millie admitting that she thought he could handle anything and everything, and apologizing and failing to realize that he was hurt so much. It felt real to me. The roughness of both characters really lends credence to the sense of believability, and it's scenes like this in the episode that remind me that Helluva Boss can do great stuff and why I loved it. To be frank, I'm honestly glad that the leaks from a few months ago didn't come to fruition. The leaks were real, but they weren't used in the episode. Which, while I'm glad they didn't go with the choice of having Millie to commit seppuku, can I say that on YouTube?
No, permission not granted.
I'd be lying if I wasn't a little annoyed that there has been a bit of a lack of this kind of character writing before this episode. What I mean to say is, I do think there should have been more stuff being pointed out, like, say...
Are you fucking filming us right now? Hell yeah!
Now that's definitely funny. It does show that while Blitz has saved his crew, it does make me raise an eyebrow since he has treated his employees not in the best of lights. I want to make it clear I'm not trying to downplay the writing in this episode. It's probably some of the strongest that Helluva Boss has had, especially for this season. And I'll still maintain it's some of the best writing in Helluva Boss, and when it's between its main cast like this. But the only flaw is that it really is only contained in this episode, and arguably the shorts. I'd like there to be more of this kind of thing where the characters actually feel comfortable enough to really allow themselves to be vulnerable. But I do appreciate the use of friendship in this episode, especially when in a vacuum, it's a very good demonstration of what longtime friends can do to help each other. But what about the friendship that isn't so old and tested? Can that be done well, and even more so when you don't even know the face of the other person? I think it can be done. In fact, let's prove it right now. One look at my channel and you'll see that my current obsession is Kamen Rider Gavv. I've made about 2 videos prior to this one where it's a major element of the contents I'm discussing. Plus, hey, if I can get more people interested in something like this... that's always a win in my book. What about this topic? What does that have to do with friendship? Well, before we get into that, let's talk about the main character of the show, Shoma's stomach. Shoma is a half-human, half-Granute, the monsters of the series, who at the start of the show not only lost his mother, but it was his brothers and sisters who killed her and turned her into a spice for some dark treats for other Granutes to eat. We actually see this happen in a flashback, so there's a good chance that Shoma's mom is actually dead. Then on the fact that Shoma's in a new world, our world, and he's trying his best to protect his mother's people and her world from the Granute threat, and you've got quite a bit of already some tragic going on here. Unfortunately, when it comes to this mission, when Shoma fights the Granute in his Kamen Rider form, he's often considered to be a monster as well. And to top it off, it's been established that anyone who Shoma gets close to could possibly be targeted by his family, Stomach Inc., and would turn them into spice for the illegal snacks for other aliens. So by that logic, Shoma feels that if he makes humans happy with his presence, that he should probably not get too close to them. But as the show goes on, Shoma actually gets defended by another character, Hanto.
みんな落ち着けってこいつは化け物じゃない化け物からみんなを助けた仮面ライダーだなありがとう
An investigative reporter who's trying to learn more about the Granute because of his own issues that I already discussed in the video prior. It's a moment like this that Shoma actually has to revisit his mindset about being at arm's length with humans. so he returns to a jack-of-all-trades shop in order to help people and become friends with the owner. I bring up Honto because while he doesn't know the true face behind Kamen Rider's mask, he does have trust in the Kamen Rider because he's seen the good that Gavv can do. In a sense, it's a bit of a one-sided friendship blooming, mainly because Honto himself becomes a Kamen Rider Valen, and Shoma doesn't know who Valen really is. Of course, we get this scene.
あれってご地蔵？
やっべえ、あいつのアイテムパクってんのバレたか。
It's actually a pretty goofy scene between the two riders where we see their inner thoughts between the two. While they're trying to act super cool, but on the inside they're just being big old goofballs. You could argue that they're more or less partners in fighting the Grand Ute Menace, but considering that they're not aware of who they really are beneath the mask, there's going to be more to it. I mean, other than being goofballs.
またどっかで会うかもな、ガブ先輩。ああ、また。
Again, I'd like to point out that these two have actually met without the masks before. Plus, Honto already has trust in Shoma as the Kamen Rider, but he just doesn't know Shoma is the Kamen Rider. So to me, this is the beginning of a friendship, and because of that, the two are actually able to work together pretty well, despite the fact they clearly have some reservations about working with each other.
一旦これで様子見だな。
But that doesn't mean that they aren't able to work together pretty well. Even in their civilian forms, they come up with a plan to expose a Grand Ute that's targeting artists.
何してくれたんだ。
わあ、化け物。
I love that delivery. But when they're both masked, that becomes more apparent that there's a bond of friendship and trust forming.
あんたも来たのか。気をつけろ。え？そいつは俺が一度倒したグラニュートだ。何？
I mean, not really that scene, but it showcases that Gavv isn't showing hesitation to work with Valen. And in this same fight, we have to recall another character, one who's actually friends with both of them. The owner of that jack-of-all-trades shop I brought up earlier, Sachika. Both of them know her through their civilian forms, Shoma working for her and Honto hiring her to search information on monsters and Kamen Rider. And considering that she's prominent in the opening of the show and has the same graphics as our two Kamen Riders, there's been a bit of a hoopla that she's going to become a Kamen Rider later in the series as well. But what's really important is that despite the two not actually knowing who the other is, the two are able to work surprisingly well and have a lot of coordination in their fight against one of the Grand Utes. To me, it really seems like between these three, there's already a bond of trust forming, and because of that, they were able to defeat this monster that had a very troubling ability of copying itself. Though thanks to Sachika for splashing paint on it, they were able to defeat the original and discern that it was making copies. Plus... Come on. These lovable idiots are already very charming with each other. And considering at the end of that specific episode with the three walking on the Sunset Road, that to me reveals that they're not only good friends, but that will translate into an amazing team of heroes who will have each other's backs in future endeavors. And that to me is something friendship should be used for, since in these kinds of high-stress situations, having a great support group to lend you aid for something that a lot of people are going to need. Even if you're one of the strongest people in the world, you're not going to be able to get that far on your own. You won't be equipped for every situation, and by having a support group with various people in it, you have a much better chance of facing a variety of situations and come out in success. Obviously, I'm reading way too much into a show where the main goal is to sell you a product. Then again, I could argue the same thing about Helluva Boss, who seems to come out with much more merch when they upload an episode every few months. Not hating, mind you, just pointing this out. But I like to think that regardless of that, these are some great messages to take from these shows. I like to think that regardless of your thoughts on these shows, and while both of them have their issues with writing and sometimes pacing, they can showcase some very interesting elements of how friendship can be done and utilized for writing. I like to point out that no, I'm not comparing them to say one is worse than the other, and I'm not saying that one of them is better. I'm not putting one on a pedestal here. Unlike my Right and Wrong series, this new series is to showcase mostly the positive aspects of the show that I do like to highlight them, and do a small comparison, but not to say which one is better, but to show how they're done differently. Because while I do have my criticism, obviously I do, I enjoy these shows and I don't want to be known for just hating on them. I mean, I don't hate on them, because I like to make sure there are positives made for each series I talk about in my videos. Even in things I have major issues with, I try to be positive in some regards. Because, like in a video I'm working on, we don't live in a world of just black and white understanding. It's rare you'll find something that is completely terrible or wholly perfect. And I feel that both of these shows can display a different way of friendship and how it can be used to support those without having to be the core message of "friendship is magic" and shoved in your face so blatantly. Obviously, you can disagree, and that's perfectly fine. This is just an opinion piece. But to me, I find that both of these shows can and have shown how friendship can be done properly in writing. Now, if you want my full opinions on these shows and such, and which one I prefer, well, I'm sure you can figure that out. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed the video, and tell me what kind of friendship in fiction you think is done really well and can accomplish a different sort of goal because of a genre, its intention, or even something else. I'm interested in learning more. I leave the comments up to you guys. I'm MangaKamen, thanks for watching, and make sure you keep your friends close. They're treasures you'll need to protect. Later, guys.